Welcome to Countdown to Infinity, a Marvel's Avengers podcast. We talk all things Marvel's cinematic universe, and that includes the Disney Plus series Loki. We're in the middle of season 2, actually one episode away from the end of season 2.
I was gonna say, it's not the middle anymore.
It's closer to the finale.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking episode 5, science fiction.
Oh, so good.
A fun episode.
So fun.
A lot of questions answered and still a couple lingering, but I'll say this, one of the most satisfying episodes of Loki. And maybe the one that fulfills kind of that time travel-y sci-fi thing the most. Because there's a lot of that in this episode.
Definitely, yeah.
My name's Emmanuel.
Oh, my name is Sophia.
And if you're confused, don't worry.
So are we.
So are now. We'll do our best to help guide you through what is an episode that shows us what we assume is the origin story or the life lost by some of our favorite characters in the TVA.
Yes.
Loki is, cliffhanger last episode, giant explosion, people are spaghettied or time
spaghettied.
Time spaghettied, yeah. And in this episode, we figured, well, what happened? And we see where they are. And I'm just going to briefly go over some of this because we spent a little bit more time with some people. But Casey is escaping Alcatraz in the year 1962
So cool.
under the name Frank.
Yeah.
He has a paper mache head that he left as kind of a decoy on his, but here's the fun thing. True story, because it seems like he is based on, or he is referencing the character Frank Morris, who successfully escaped Alcatraz and was never found. So he successfully
got
escaped
out there.
Yeah, the 1962.
Which makes sense.
B-15 plays a doctor in 2012 in New York.
Yes.
If you're wondering why that sounds important, well, the Avengers was set in New York in 2012. So I wonder what date that is, because Loki is definitely the villain of that. Mobius is Dan, the single dad of 2 sons living in Cleveland in 2022.
And guess what?
What?
He sells jet skis.
He has quite the operation. Still, no one appreciates jet skis as much as he does. He's a totally different person when it comes to jet skis. OB is a person named A.D. Doug. Not just a person, but an aspiring science fiction writer.
Yes.
Kind of a failed one, right? He's putting his books in something.
He is a writer because he does have a book published. So he is a writer.
He is a writer.
Whether he's successful or not
whether
is the
he
question.
has all the copies. I love when he's looking around. He's like, maybe I'll find a copy for you or whatever. But don't worry, he's still helpful because in his career, he's he teaches theoretical physics at Caltech. So, he's a lot smarter too.
That's his backup plan.
His backup plan. And Sylvie is in Braxton, Oklahoma, still doing her McDonald's thing. McDonald's paying a lot of money for the product placement. Here
Honestly.
they are, episode 5. But this is it, right? Because we see that that whole timeline gets spaghettied.
I was gonna say, we're gonna jump to that.
Well, I'm just saying, this is the end of the McDonald's thing, right?
I mean, maybe.
Next
Who knows?
episode?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It could possibly not be.
If they succeed, McDonald's is back.
Let's talk about it.
For a 6th episode, more McDonald's. Would be wild if, Burger King or something is the sponsor for just that last
That's
ep.
the variant.
Yeah, they're talking about the Whopper or something like that.
Yeah.
This episode culminates in Loki realizing, with the help of OB, who's, again, really brilliant, that he needs to understand the why of his time slippage and whether or not he can control it, because it's not happening as randomly as he thinks it is.
No, because he's around the people that he loves.
He's attracted to those time auras, and it takes a end of time or a giant time spaghetti, kind of a reminiscent of the snap, I would say.
Seriously.
In the Infinity War. But it takes something like that for him to realize that, oh my God, I might be able to traverse all of time and space without a time pad.
Which is crazy.
Crazy.
As if he wasn't already powerful enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they were just like,
for him.
There you go. Crazy.
Sophia, we're going to talk about all this stuff in detail, but overall, what are your thoughts on this wild science fiction time travel-y episode of Loki?
Well,
why do you yawn always right before you talk, and it's just the worst?
I'm so sorry. Okay, so let me just say that my hair flipping itch for Loki has been scratched to the fullest. I mean, because of all the time slipping that we see in this episode, it's like, I love it so much. Thank you so much, Tom. But also, I think we mentioned this in previous eps, like we wanted to get here. We wanted to see how everybody was, what everyone was doing. And we had a bunch of questions for like their origins.
We also had questions about what it looks like when your time is I guess is up.
And so this was just a really interesting, like a lot of our questions were answered in this. And like it took a lot of hypothesis on our end just to think of like, okay, wait, so and so is going to do this, so and so is going to do that. But I was not expecting Casey. First of all, I mean, B15, I figured it would be something honorable or like noble on her part because she has just that type of personality where she just wants to do good. So seeing her as a doctor was like wonderful.
Oh, you mean B15?
B15, that's what I said.
Oh, I think I said Casey. You said Casey.
I said Casey first, but then I jumped to B15.
Oh, I see.
And then OB, of course, like we were expecting the jet skis and or did not OB, Mobius.
Yeah.
Sorry, see now you got me. Mobius, we were expecting the jet skis. I was not sure what OB was going to do. I mean, we figured that he was going to sacrifice himself to save everyone. Like that was one idea, but seeing him here, like, it makes all the more sense. I love seeing him as an author, especially science fiction. Come on, and of all the people to believe Loki, it had to be him.
Yeah,
it had to be OB first.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is fun to see that there is some, I would say, characteristics that no matter what universe, they are attached to. I like how Mobius's origin. I'll just say their actual names. I'm not going to say
Dan or Mobius?
Mobius.
Okay.
The same person. But yeah, I'll say Mobius. He is also kind of trying to deal with a hectic situation being a single dad, similar to the TVA. He's always so hopeful in this show. And, we saw him negotiate with his son, he's like, oh my God, I got to just take the small victories. And he's like that, all the time.
At the TVA too.
At the TVA, which is funny. Oh, you talked about B15 being compassion. Casey, of course, who's, I would say, very handy and able to kind of get out of situations in a very similar way as to escaping Alcatraz.
He's a good accomplice to have.
Great accomplice to have. You know what I'm
saying? So for him to escape Alcatraz, makes total sense.
It is crazy to me because it does posit that question that the TVA had been dealing with, which is, whose choice is it for us to be here working at the TVA and giving up our non-stressful lives and have the opportunity to disappear forever. It's kind of like ignorance is bliss. I might want to be a failed writer instead of stressing out about Kang and stuff. And that is put towards these versions of these people because Loki does ask Casey and B15 and Mobius and OB to believe him and come with him, and they do. I would say Mobius is maybe the hardest one because he's got two little ones that he's leaving behind. And even then, it's sort of a lift to be like, I'll go with you.
Yeah.
But it's also got to be the fact that they're seeing Loki use some of these powers. I mean,
for sure.
It's helpful that OB is the last person because OB made a TemPad, and that helps. That really helps a lot when you have a TemPad.
Yeah, it proves a lot.
Proves a whole lot when you have one of those. But it's still hard for them. But ultimately, I don't know. Do you think this is the moment where they did choose to join Loki? And then it means that they have made the decision? Because part of me feels like they didn't actually get the complete pitch from Loki. It was like the end of the world or not. And of course, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, well, I guess I'll go. But if you go to anyone, they may go. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like it's like a Hail Mary. It's like almost forcing someone's hand. And it doesn't feel like a totally complete choice.
Especially because you have not seen the TVA. Like once they get to the TVA and they see how intimidating it could be and how much responsibility it is, that could be the moment where they choose, because then they're like, oh, this is a lot of responsibility. I'm actually just going to walk away.
It's hard to forget this too.
Exactly. And it's hard to think about not just your world, because it's bigger than the world, because the world is your reality that you live in. It's multiple worlds because it's multiple realities. That's true. It's all of them. So for you to just talk about it is one thing, but for you to see it and then realize how much responsibility it is, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
You could just be in the moment and be like, you know what? Yeah. I was meant to do this. I'm gonna for sure like, yeah, let's go back, let's go figure this out. But then once you get there, it takes a much bigger person to stay. So that is I think that moment, whenever they go back to the TVA, or whenever they would have or are going to,
or like, does Loki even need them to go back at this point?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like, he
because
kind of gets...
it's just kind of him now.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, well, y'all
But-
do whatever you want. I could make it however you want it to be.
Yeah. But see,
Interesting.
even that in itself is a lot. So
Man, I wonder, now that I'm talking this out, I wonder if at the end of this, the real thing is, like, Loki doesn't need the TVA. Loki is just the guy.
I was gonna say he's he who remains.
He will become the one that, I don't know. We have a whole episode left, but too much speculation happening.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed, look, we talked about that crew. I really enjoyed Sylvie a lot. I feel like this is the first episode in a long time since she has gotten to be, I think, incredibly important to Loki in a more personal and emotional way. Because again, just like he does when he shows up to everyone's, realities, he does this to Sylvie early on in this season.
Yeah.
To try to get her back. And most of the times we see her, it's her telling him to let the TVA die and to let things be destroyed,
let him
and
play out.
and almost to the point where she's just desperately pleading all the time. And in this one, we get she takes him to a bar. She says, you're also as selfish as I do. And
As
I'm
I
like,
am.
okay,
Yeah.
well, she's actually like trying, like, this is acting, But a lot of the show is so manic and things are happening so quickly. There's not a lot of these moments of rest. And this moment I'm talking about could also have just been a minute or something. But it was nice to have that kind of heart to heart with Sylvia and Loki.
Well, I mean, she had to also put it into perspective for him because, yes, like, his argument is like, oh, we need someone to rationalize everything and like make things work or whatever, like for the TVA, like it can't just all be open, and which like totally understand that for sure. But Sylvie had such a good point, like, okay, well, why do you want everybody back? Like, why do you need it to be the way that it was?
She's
And
lonely.
then of course, like, you see the real reason. And she had a good point again where she was like, I'm you. Like, I'm just as selfish as you are. Like, I want it to be free for me too. Like, I just want to choose somewhere and just live. I will say I had not felt so gutted in a long time watching this show than watching her disappear.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, it was when her, what was it, like a soda and her meal from McDonald's when she got off.
Yeah, that
When
got
that
dusted.
disappeared, I was like, oh no. And then seeing all of it, oh my God, I was gutted.
That was a fun visual because this
cheese and rice, it was so good.
I believe she's listening to a track.
Yeah,
It
the
goes
record.
incredibly slow motion, and
Yes.
and that's again something that we had been missing from the show. And I think on purpose, although people's patience might have been wearing thin towards the last couple eps, and I think it's her point. Right? Like she says, you're the TVA, you're seeing these branches go off, but it's just a thing on your screen for you. These are people. And this is when, honestly, the first time that we've seen a universe.
It doesn't look like it hurts.
Okay.
I'm just
Yeah,
thinking
everyone
for
gets
the
ribboned,
No.
but yeah.
I'm just thinking for the characters, like no one is
Yeah.
like screaming in agony.
Gosh, and they do that thing, and we already talked about Infinity War,
the
but
emotion.
everybody gets a turn, and which sucks. It's super sadistic. It's
Yeah.
very much to make you feel the worst
Something.
possible.
Yep.
But B-15 goes, Mobius goes, Casey tries to run away. Like everyone gets a moment to die, including Sylvie. And that is what triggers Loki to becoming, doing the thing that he needs to do. A new visual for us, all the slow motion and stuff, but a lot of fun stuff with Loki, who is kind of retaking the center spotlight, being, as powerful as at the end, but when he lands in the balloon man thing, he's doing the inflatable man dance.
Yeah.
When he's trying with Obi to get the power back, he's like in the middle of the circle, like the Da Vinci man. Yeah. I looked it up. His name is the Vitruvian Man.
Oh,
Interesting.
nice.
And I think it all was so that we can maybe understand how central Loki is, and it seems like maybe even to the whole MCU and the universe, not just his own show, of course, but It's good times to be a Loki fan because it seems like Loki, who was the villain in the first Avengers film,
seriously, in like stages ago.
yeah, and dies
Yeah.
in a Thor movie.
Yes.
How he is actually
Full circle.
incredibly important.
Bad
still.
guy, good guy now?
Yeah, I mean, and also maybe back to bad guy now, right?
Who knows?
Like if he has that
that's-
power, what do you
there's
do?
so much power that he has. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it because I don't know. It's just so much.
Yeah.
Like he could 100% do something terrible with it because he is, again, the god of mischief.
Yeah.
And he is incredibly selfish. And he is all of the things that Loki is. And so to put all of this power into one character, MCU, I'm wondering what's going to balance it out. Like, is it going to be Kang? Like what's I don't know what the long run is here.
Yeah, that's the dangerous thing, and it's something that we have been exposed to before. And this is the only reason why I'm bringing up the fact that him being able to control time and space is dangerous. Is in this episode we establish that he is lonely, right? And
Yes.
he can't. I don't know, and
He can't get past it.
can't get past that, which is
No.
really dangerous for someone if he can
If you have
manipulate all
this-
his friends or whatever.
uh-huh.
And we've seen this already in the MCU, even in WandaVision. Remember how Wanda
Yes.
Maximoff uses that whole village
Yes.
to,
Yes.
help her and her
Deal with grief.
deal with grief and her
Yes.
version of it. So
Exactly.
it could take that turn where you're empathetic towards a
Villain?
person, even though they're doing something super wrong.
Yeah.
Or it could be something where he has this power and just is like, I'm going to
Be responsible.
yeah, and not do it and be celibate of it, kind of like Dr. Manhattan in The Watchmen. He
Yeah.
just at some point goes to the moon because he's like, I can't deal with And the Superman does it too.
Yeah.
He leaves. He's just like, all right, this
Better,
is too
it's
much.
better for everyone. If
It's
I'm
better,
just
yeah, if
gone.
I don't meddle, because I could hear everything or see everything. But I don't know. Loki doesn't seem to be a guy who wants to do
I
that.
don't think he's there yet.
Yeah.
No.
And this would be an interesting course correct for Marvel if it is Loki who is creating the X-Men, is creating the Fantastic Four and Blade and vampires and
Right.
the Bengal, all that stuff
whole other
would be
thing.
an interesting pivot for them if they decide to go that way because it would work and it would work. Like, everyone loves Loki. But anyways, that's too speculative, I guess. So let's talk about a little bit more about, this specific episode.
Okay.
I think it reminds me a lot of Doctor Who because Doctor Who travels around in different times in his TARDIS whenever he needs to. Do we have this little glimpse of Loki just traveling around? Sylvie has her temp head as well, but
I just don't
is
know.
that like the fun part of him now? The fact that he can go around and help and talk with whoever he needs to?
I mean, I guess, but I just don't understand how he's going to fix everything with this power.
Yeah, how far back he
How
goes.
far back
Yeah.
are you going to go? And like, is he going to see who remains? Because he could totally go back to that moment where he was at the end of time with Sylvie.
Yeah, or
Is
the
he
beginning.
Is
if
he
you
going to
want. Yeah.
not? Is he going to not kill him? Is he going to stop Sylvie from killing him? How can that shift everything?
That's interesting too because
Like we can go back to season 1.
which is wild because OB unveils this, the fact that Loki should not be no time travel is allowed at the TVA, right? You can't
No.
go and revisit anything at the TV any
No.
moment, but Loki has multiple
He's
times by
technically
now.
been having, yeah.
And that's when OB's like, "Oh, it has nothing to do with time. Like
Yeah.
you can travel wherever you want based on your
It's just your
connection."
powers. Yeah.
To that place. And so he could move back at the TVA or up forward at the TVA. I think that's
Or-
interesting too because it seems like that helps answer this question. Loki doesn't just go around willy-nilly.
No.
He's not going to, France to talk to
Yeah.
Napoleon.
Right,
He's
right.
only going to places he's been to before and to people who are important to him.
If
so,
the person is there, because he had never been to wherever Mobius is,
Yeah,
wherever
yeah. Well, that's what I'm
Sylvie
saying.
was. Like
Just-
he
it's just-
it's just based on their auras.
yeah, if he has a connection to it. So it may be that limited that he can only revisit moments he's been to
Okay.
or people he's been to.
Then I'm more
in the
comfortable.
past.
Then I'm more comfortable with him having
Yeah,
this power.
yeah.
I'm cool with it.
I mean, of course, he can probably get better at it or whatever, and he doesn't need those limitations or
Aw,
something.
He could visit his dad.
But that's also an interesting thing because we're talking about what's in this episode. There's some really important things we don't see, including Miss Minutes, Ravonna.
Yeah.
Not much time in the TVA or Victor Timely. I
No.
wonder if that is also possible to him, because can he go to where Ravonna is? Like, he doesn't have this close, fond relationship with her, but
No.
he has feelings towards her for sure, of hate maybe, or for Victor Timely. Like, can he do that as well? I'm sure that would be helpful, make things a lot easier for him. Or is it just, oh, I can only go back on my timeline, and you're like, well, shit. Okay, like, how far back? Like, when do I start to worry about Kang the like, you know, or do I warn the Avengers about Thanos if I can go back there? It's a interesting moment, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it matters, like, the emotional attachment to the person. I think it's just whether or not he has enough of any emotion to go back to. Does that make sense? So he could totally find Ravonna, I think. But I do think that because at the end of the episode, we go back to just the explosion, right? Moments before the explosion. But once he's there, what is he going to do? He's just going to talk to everybody and let them know, like, hey, I just discovered this about myself, so what should I do?
I
and
know,
like,
that'd be weird.
Come up with a new plan.
That's kind of low stakes, right?
Also, like, what's going to happen to Victor Timely then? Like, is he already spaghetti or is he not spaghetti?
Yeah.
Like,
and then remember, there's that thread of him maybe telling Ravonna and Miss Minutes that
they're going to work together.
Things are okay or whatever.
So, like, what does all of that mean?
It's a interesting question. And then his power is just so unknown right now, because he could it feels like with this power, you could easily fix the loom. Like, there's no limitation. You can... you can solve whatever and keep going back and keeping going, you know, and whatever.
It's just trial and error.
And then is that the case, or does he try to, you know, end Victor Timely before? I don't know. Like, it's a interesting thing that we're up for in this last episode.
Also, can there be two Lokis at the same place? Because we didn't see it. He time slipped.
Yeah, there can be. He can see himself again. Yeah.
Okay.
Because remember, he saw himself picking up. Yeah, he can see himself.
Okay.
I don't know if you can have three.
That's right, with Dan.
I'm sure you can have three, or you can have... I don't know. It's definitely a question.
That has to do something. That has to... I don't know. Yeah. There has to be repercussions to that.
All these time paradoxes and stuff will be interesting.
I will say this is the episode that had my brain straining the most.
Yeah, but I think it was fun.
Wait. Oh, in a great way. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just like, wait, okay.
Yeah.
Because time can get very tricky.
And that's why I talk about Doctor Who, because Doctor Who deals with these paradoxes all the time. They revisit episodes from seasons prior, or different Doctor Who's even, constantly. They're constantly bringing back Doctor Who's. And they also are always having to think of these paradoxes or contradictions and stuff. So it's definitely possible, but it is all about how you frame it and how well you, I guess, talk about it or explain it. I feel like we're good now, though. I do feel like there's some finality after seeing the threading stuff, or the end of the loop, or the end of the time thing.
Yes.
Because now I have a clear picture of, okay, this is what is happening throughout these different realities. But I'm still a little confused about what Miss Minutes is, what the deal is with her, what's going to happen with the TVA. Like, all of that stuff, I'm still wondering.
Yeah.
And I'm still worried about, but it's good because we still have a whole episode. And I'm just hoping, my hope beyond hopes is it's just not a giant CGI fight. You know?
I don't think it's going to be
I hope
anymore.
not.
I don't think so. I think it's much deeper than that now, because of all of the time things, and also because of the internal conflict that Loki has now. Like, do I fix everything, or like, do I keep this responsibility just to myself and make sure that everyone is safe, or
that's a big one.
Or do I get my team back together and like fix it with them?
It's hard though. He's not gonna be able to hide it from one person.
No,
and I think it's Obi.
Yeah,
Obi's too smart. Like, you know, Obi.
I think he's gonna come clean. I think
so too. It would be really. I think the moment when he tells Sylvie though will be dangerous, because the reason why she wanted to kill Kang in all variants is because she didn't want anyone controlling all the timelines.
Yeah.
And is it now her trusting him to be like, okay, well, you're different, or is it like, how can I trust that the timeline is free? Even if it is you and I know you and you're me, technically. And
technically, yeah, I am you.
But gosh, it would be an interesting thing. Although I feel like no matter what, Sylvie's going to feel defeated, because when she thought she ended it, she still didn't, you know.
Well, also keep in mind she saw what happens when it is unleashed like that. Like when it is totally free.
loom,
She saw the universe and the time period that she chose turn to spaghetti.
I'm a little
so
confused.
She saw that.
Is it only happening because of the time loom trying to control everything?
I don't
or
know.
if the loom doesn't work, then I think that's what's happening, right? Because that's why she came back the first time.
Yeah, like there's
She was like, I'm going to help you. Yeah. So they still need to fix the loom.
Yes.
What would be interesting to me is if the loom doesn't matter and if Loki could just do it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, is he going to keep that responsibility if it comes to that, or is he going to say like,
do you trust him?
need a? I really don't know.
If you were in their position, I guess.
I don't know because I mean we've seen Loki's character arc now, right? Over years. Before this, like we saw pieces of Loki, but this just turned him into somebody that, like, of course we can empathize with.
Yeah.
And someone who seems just more genuine, and because he has seen that things are much bigger than wherever he was, you know, like it's for all time. Like it's way more important than just him.
Yeah.
But then he has just admitted to us that he just doesn't want to be lonely. But I'm hoping that he realizes that he doesn't have to be lonely to have this responsibility. Like he can, because he can travel anywhere, he can go and check in on people, you know, and just like get satisfaction off of that. But if he's looking like to live a life with someone, I don't trust him.
There are variations to this for sure. You know, I could totally see Loki being the leader of the TVA as a CEO type, but have it very democratized, or you know, if you don't want it anymore, you can go back. Like that would be an in between.
Yeah.
There could be one where the whole timelines are out and they're free, and he just is controlling them, you know, without the TVA. So there's variations.
Yeah.
And still a lot of really big questions for us, you know, for the finale. Any other things you're looking forward to, or trying to figure out how, you know, they resolve themselves? Or are we just trying to make sure everyone lives?
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's a weird balance, right? Like, I'm not sure if allowing everyone to just live on and let the timeline be free is what's going to solve everything, because obviously, like, that causes more problems and it causes more spaghetti. But I do think that there needs to be a process, not necessarily at the way that the TVA was doing it, like with all of the pruning, but I do think that there needs to be like choices for variants rather than just getting them in trouble and pruning them. You know, like when you find a variant, like ask them like what they're doing. Like there needs to be something else.
Yeah.
That I hope that Loki figures out. Well, first I hope that they fix everything.
Yeah.
And then I do hope that Loki is in charge of it in some way. Because that is a lot of power to have on one character. Like he needs to do good with that.
Yeah.
Oh shit! And then we still have Ravonna to worry about.
Yep. And it seems like Ravonna and Miss Minutes are even in a different league than Kang and everyone. A lot of ways to go. It's hard not to think about all of the stuff going on outside of these shows. You know, I mean, can Marvel have Ravonna and Miss Minutes take the place of Jonathan Majors as Kang?
No.
Do they continue with Kang? Is it Loki now? You know, there's a lot they could still do, which is really fun. And honestly, an exciting part. I just hope a lot of people are watching Loki, so that they understand it, because we've got a Marvels movie coming out.
I was going to say, the Marvels are coming out.
And it's a question whether or not they'll be connected at all. Period. Or, you know, if there's going to be... I mean, we'll watch it, of course. But
it has to be. It has to be.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the stakes in Loki are really high. We're talking about the end of all time and whatever. But, yeah. Anything else you're looking forward to?
No, I just need answers.
Yeah.
I just need to know.
Yeah. So next week is going to be really busy for us. Not only will we have the finale of Loki, which we'll try to get to as fast as possible, but we do have a new movie coming out. The Marvel, starring Brie Larson and a lot of other young actors and new actors to the MCU, I'd say, is coming out. So we'll have a spoiler-free episode on that, and then a spoiler-full episode on the Marvels. Go out and watch it. You know, we may talk too about how it portends an interesting moment for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Marvel Studios because it's tracking lower than The Flash right now.
Wow.
So it's
That's surprising.
It
Y'all
is,
get
yeah.
out there and go watch it.
The first movie, of course, one of the highest grossing movies of all time, making over 1.5 billion, I think, right?
Yeah.
It didn't make a ton of money.
It made a ton of money.
So it's an interesting time. So we may end up talking about a little bit about that too, but we'll watch the movie first and give you our thoughts on that. But we've come to the end of this episode. Sophia, what do you have to plug?
Just the same old things, just thank you so much for supporting us and listening to our voices and taking the time to do so. But if you want to check out any other things that we got in the Dolphin Pod Network, please feel free. There's so many shows that you can check out. Dirt Sheet Radio, Revenge of the Sequel. Also, if you want to take your support even further, please check us out on Patreon. Everything's going to be at patreon.com/DelphinPod, DelfinPod. And if you want to follow me on any socials, you sure can. Everything is going to be at _Simply Sophie, SOFIEE.
Again, we'll be back next week with a bunch of eps. It's going to be really exciting. Thanks so much for listening.
Go watch the Marvels.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.